Hi everyone, welcome to the Startup Operator Podcast. I'm Roshan Karyappa and today I'm speaking to Santosh Panda. Santosh has worn many different hats in his career, spanning over 2 decades. He was a software engineer at companies like Sonata Software, Core Objects, and eBay. He then co-founded Explara, an online ticketing platform that has since evolved into a monetization platform for communities. He was CEO of Explara for 12 years, and now he leads customer success and growth at Thrively in the US, which works on K-12 prep for kids. Santosh is also among the most active startup mentors in the country and works tirelessly with the various founders. We'll be speaking to him today about his journey as a founder, operator, and mentor, and more. So, welcome, Santosh. How are you?
All good, Roshan. Thank you so much for being on your podcast. It's fantastic. I've been watching. This is great in terms of bringing people, and sharing their insights. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Really glad that you could make time for this. So Santosh, which of those roles do you enjoy the most? That of being the founder, the operator, or the mentor?
I think personally, I will say I love mentoring.
Right.
Personally, because it goes along with my nature to stay connected to people, network,
Yeah.
and kind of help people. Right, those are the two things. But then when you talk about real result-driven life, then you have to be on the driving seat, right?
Right.
And then you switch on to be a founder, right? You can't stop yourself creating it, right? So when you get motivated to bring some changes, you get into your founder mindset, time to time.
Yeah. No, I mean, that must be a unique experience, right? Especially being a founder yourself earlier, to be hands-on yet hands-off. I mean, to be able to give advice to someone, but not really force your hand, so to speak, right? I mean, so how do you manage that? How do you manage to strike a balance between, advising someone about something and then actually getting down to doing it?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's the hardest job to be honest, because and I think this is also a part of realization of running Explara for so long that many a times maybe I would have been advised not to do certain things, right? And we end up doing that experiment, and then later on we feel, you know what? Maybe we should not have. Maybe we didn't use the right frameworks and models, and just went on doing it, right? So that's a realization when you run a business for long, or run a business for some years, or in some capacity. And then when you do mentoring, you kind of try hard to ensure that somebody doesn't do that mistake that you did it, or you were told, or you were cautioned. And it's by the way, when you are a founder, you become so much concerned about another founder that you don't want to sound too robotic. You have to have a passion, you have to have a compassion to say, you know what, yes, he or she might be picking up certain decisions, but how do we mold it? How do we help her or him to kind of like step back, think about it, right? For example, I was talking to a founder yesterday. She had so many ideas, fantastic idea, but then she's stuck in decision making, right? Because she's just pouring in thought after thought with one ambition, saying that I need to grow faster, right? And that's a critical, classic case with almost every founder, right? You want to execute faster, but then look, when you are trying to execute faster, what's the mind map? What are you benchmarking with? What's your value proposition from your business to your customers? Once you create that framework, then it is easy for you to make decision, and you would not be stressed out by trying to do 10 things, but maybe your business needs just 3 things to do. Now, for me to articulate that, I cannot just say, hey, whatever you're saying is BS. I'll have to be saying, on her side or his side, to say, hey, you know what, whatever you think could make sense, but can you just go step by step? Can you just use your business value proposition to ideate and say, oh, this is what I should be doing. I might have 10 things in my mind, but I have put that in a specific place. I would go back and revisit them once I do some part of those experiments or those plannings that I had. Now, as a founder, it is easy for me to now relate to, and then somebody who is on the other side is about to be building a business or just conceptualizing it. It's always a rush, right? A rush to get it things done. But we all know, business takes time. You might be in a rush to do everything in the world, but you shouldn't be doing. You may be just doing two things, and that will get you a fantastic growth. You might drill down much deeper to identify the core value rather than getting distracted by competitions, fundraising, noise, and all that, right? That's a tricky part, and you just have to balance it, and you have to ensure that they are getting this kind of thought process and value.
Yeah.
There.
No, it's a fantastic point that you bring up, really, and I've heard it said many different times. In fact, Vinod Khosla says that you can't really advise founders unless you've been a founder yourself.
Very true.
Yeah, because you don't really have that empathy, nor do you have the perspective to advise them. He also says, who you take advice from is perhaps the most important thing you will do as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I think that's a very keen. And I also ensuring that during this mentoring exercise, if there are people who are coming out from an industry that I cannot relate to, I don't even, I will not even able to learn something about it and cannot add value. I outright politely say, hey, no, this is my limitation. I can't help you in this, because no point for me to jump in on every possible conversation and kind of like try to give them an advice which I cannot relate to. Right? For example, if it is a hotel booking thing, if it is a grocery app, and if it is a talent or job hunting platform, those are the most difficult ones to do, right? Because I cannot relate to them. I might have to figure out certain data points even to do it. So I outright say, you know what, I don't know about it. Please excuse me. Maybe you should find out a founder who has done it, who has tried it, who might have failed it also, but he'll able to be a much better mentor than me. I think hence you need to make sure that as a mentor also, we need to make sure that we are not just rushing through, while we might not even be able to make sense for certain industry or for certain domains. Very important point that you brought it, that, hey, who you give decision is also equally an important parameter for a mentor to choose.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to do is, project your own experiences, your own fallacies, your own experiences to another context, right? Because no two situations are the same, no two founders are the same.
You have to be very careful, and we all know that a lot of ideas, a lot of success in the world has been where there has been millions and dozens of no's, right? And people have built it, right? So you have to be very careful that you don't throw your bias on someone without it. So it is more about context, what exactly I know, where are the key pain points or decision making that you are stuck at, who else I can connect you so that you get a little more context about it, and also asking them to say, hey, you know what, this is my background, please do choose whether you think I can add value, right? That's important bit there.
Yeah, because I think startups itself is an outlier, right? I mean, less than what percentage of startups really succeed.
Absolutely.
So given that reality, it's very difficult to say no to someone, very difficult to say, hey, that's something that absolutely does not work. But there are a few of those things, right? There are a few of those things that are obvious mistakes. Maybe not doing a proper market sizing before you begin. Right? One of those things I can think of. Any other obvious mistakes that you see founders make?
Yeah, I think so what happens, what I've been seeing, that there are patterns, is that the rush to solve a problem is evident, right? And I think that's a bit of, there is a bias to do, right? Right? Because you want to do, right? And everything else comes to your mind to do it, right? Because that's an entrepreneur.
It's also an engineering mentality.
It's an engineering mentality, and it's a problem-solving mentality, right? But then you need to also step back, and that's where I have, advised a lot of startups to say, hey, you know what? Go and speak to customers, please. Please tell them what you would. Nobody's stealing your idea. Nobody's interested in your business. right? But go and speak to them. Don't speak to 3 people and they say, oh yeah, my job is done. Please speak to 30 maybe or 10 maybe.
Yeah.
Build your right sort of framework and thesis to say, yeah, I now understand what it is. And hence I should be going and doing a problem. So I see in certain founders that there is a rush towards building it because they think time constraint is there, money constraint there, I need to get going. And truly, whenever somebody is initiating a startup, they might have money, but hey, look, if you are going to step up to do a startup for 6 to 9 months or 1 year, you will not be making money because you'll be focusing on building your business.
Yeah.
Hence, there is always an urgency of time. Now, that urgency of time means you will end up skipping certain key decision-making process, and one of them, as you rightly mentioned, is not gathering feedback, right? Not addressing where your potential customer could be, rather than thinking too many channels where your customer could be. Selecting a set of customers to go and deploy the solution and see whether it works. Right? Maybe you do a simple one. Don't try to over-engineer. So I think there are so many of those that you generally find. I think that's where a lot of founders could stop, because look, if somebody is experimenting and they are going to lose a lot of time, it's going to be a waste of money and a motivation too, and also a loss for the ecosystem, because if the founder succeeds, it'll be good for the ecosystem, right? So I think that's the fundamental observation that I've been keeping a note and guiding founders to say, please do these things, don't rush yourself just because somebody or the market condition is great, so I have to rush. That's also another sort of typical thing, right? People just rush because they have to build the next TikTok, and without understanding the very nuances about why consumer, what is exactly missing that you will be offering that somebody will like it. Just because there is a gap, that doesn't mean that people will like every other replacement. So there are so many those things that has to be kind of like shared with the founders in an empathetic way again.
Yeah. No, because the other thing that people underestimate is the amount of time it takes to build a successful company, right? I mean, these things don't happen in a year, couple of years' time. I mean, if you are serious about it, it's at least a 10-year commitment, right?
True.
And the last thing you want to do is be solving the wrong problem or the irrelevant problem for that much that part of your life as such.
Yeah, true, very true. And I think that's also a point that is generally overlooked with a rush to say that I can quickly build something and raise some fund. Okay, good. You should raise fund if it is good product, good tractions and all that you can build up. But I think, as you rightly said, you need to be looking at a mind map of saying, I am building this business for long, right? Or to make a good outcome of it, not to rush and take unlimited decisions just because I have to quickly get it done, right? Maybe you should be not be even serving more than 1,000 customers in your first year. I would intend to see those kind of businesses coming out where they say, you know what, in first year I have 1,000 customers only, I'm going to go about it. Next year I'll have 8,000 customers or 10,000. And maybe, and then the beautiful business, and look at Notion and look at many other companies are getting built now in this second phase, right? Where people are saying, you know what, Figmas of the world and Notions of the world, they just attracted a certain set of audience and now skyrocketing. Why not? Build for someone rather than trying to rush and take a lot of wrong decisions in the initial days, because as you rightly said, it can simply take away a lot of your money and time, and you will not get a good outcome of it.
Yeah, that's also a very interesting counterintuitive point that you bring up, right? Building slowly, building thoughtfully, building deliberately, rather than just a mad rush to just gain numbers, because then you don't look at users or people. I mean, then you just look at that exponential graph going up, and you feel happy about it, but then that's going to eventually stall, and you'll wonder why. And at that point of time, I mean, you don't really know as such, right? Yeah,
that's true. That's true. There is nothing, Russ. I'm like, as much as we are told, there are dozens of email marketing software companies running for a couple of $1 million ARR. So the market for software is, at least from the software side, is not slowing down. people are longing for creative products. We've been seeing examples of that year on year, right? And hence there is a much bigger market that has been opened up and available to you versus, let's say, 10 years back. And the same equation is going to come even in the coming 10 years. So I think if you build product rightfully, focusing on a key segment, making it work, I think even the investors are looking for it, because everybody is now looking forward to building better businesses than throwing money on founders who cannot scale beyond a limit. And that's very evident when you're just growing for the sake of growing. It's going to come out pretty soon, right? When you don't understand the fundamentals beyond the basic level.
Yeah. And one very important question is also what kind of business you want to build, right? Whether you want to build a lifestyle business, I mean, you're going to look at profits and losses, or you're going to build a VC business, or a sort of a hyper growth business, right? Where you're going to raise money, increase your valuations, and build something of value, right? So, so that is also important, and the way you make decisions for each of them is extremely different, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the beautiful part of it. I think India is going to be a combination of things, right? Indian, in my mind, Indian startups are going to be a combination of things. We will see some big billion-dollar businesses like already Press works, and many other ones are coming up. Even Postman has gone in. But I would see, maybe 6 years back, Postman was a micro SaaS. Right, today is a multi-billion-dollar because they went in a right framework, thoughts, right, exactly. Great experiments, focused experiments on their target audience and build it. So, Indian startups, in my mind, is going to be a mixture of micro SaaS, mega SaaS, and in between industry verticals are going to come. So, hence, from a founder's point of view, you also, I think this has been written many times and talked about many times. Even founder product fit, right? Whether you as a founder, are you able to relate to the product, right? The product might not go for $1 billion, but a fantastic $2 million ARR, and you can chill in your life. You can go to Goa and run the business from the sea beach, and you have no question asked. And hey, look, don't worry about whether the media writes about you or not. You will have a great business that you can chill, right? So I think that's very important. I think India, I hope many people out there, and I think this kind of what we were trying to do with the podcast, many people should be able to listen that, look, I want to build this kind of business, that's it, and I don't want to build the other kind of business because that my product is not meant for that. And even if I try to pull the growth in a wrong way, I would even miss out that $2 million ARR which I could have run from Goa Beach, right? So I think that's the correct mind frame for everybody to operate out.
Yeah, it has to suit your temperament,
It has to.
That's such a, again, very interesting point that you bring up, the founder product fit, right? Because if you look at some of the most successful companies, you can't think of another person running that company, right?
True.
Whether it's Zuckerberg with Facebook or whoever it is. Or Bhavish with Ola, for example.
True.
You can't really think of another person running that company. Okay, let's back up a little bit and talk about Explara. So you ran Explara for about 12 long years.
Huge.
Yeah, I mean, more than a decade, right?
Yes.
I remember hearing about Explara, I think in 2009, 2010. If I'm not mistaken, I think Rajan Anandan invested in that, and I think this is early days. This was still around the time when startups were not so fashionable as well.
True.
We hadn't seen the whole e-commerce or consumer internet wave at that point of time, right? And it was quite a thrill to see this thing happen. And I think the Explara story had picked up in a few different places as well on the by the media. So talk us through, your founding story with Explara. What did you see as an opportunity? How did you get started? And
So I think, look, as you just now mentioned, Bhavish will start Ola and Grace would start Freshworks, right? All of us, we come across a problem that we, somehow we accidentally reach out, right? or we reach out that as part of our journey in life, right? So I was part of eBay team in London. I was thinking to start. I had already started one or two ideas back in London back in 2006-7. By the way, when London was not a startup ecosystem at that point of time, you would not even find a lot of angels beyond a couple of names. And that didn't work out initially. My ideas and third idea was just thinking through, was part of eBay team, was going out and as part of a lot of events we host, developer outreach and and community kind of things in eBay. So I kind of picked up event as and I was writing a note to say what should I do, and I thought, hey, what's happening in event? So I started sitting down in London. I started mapping India, saying, can I launch this in India? Will people host event over the years to kind of bring people together? And I thought yes, because looking at London, where it's almost like a world's event city, right? You name it, things happens there, right? Starting from theaters to all the way to mega scale events. So I thought that if India is going to grow in the next 10, 12 years with the IT boom, beyond IT, startups coming in, and by the way, I was already looking at Redbus, where Redbus was already becoming a story. So I was starting to believe that India as a country is going to rise up. People's willingness to go to events and for various things is going to grow, and as a country we will be using tools to host event than pen and paper. All that sort of thesis helped me to say, let me start. That's how I started, and I started quite ahead of time, right? While things, other things, so other things didn't come to my mind because maybe I should have launched an eBay in India, maybe, but I was not able to relate to. Yeah. So that's how it started in 2009, and I think India was also not ready with the angel ecosystem, right? So I had to bootstrap myself for at least a couple of years till Rajan Anandan came in. In 2009, 10, 11, I was bootstrapping from London, having a day job, get to the work from 9 to 5, come back, run those daily operations on a Skype with the team in Pune, right? Yeah. So that's how, at least 2-3 years that I ran. But the fantastic experience was that we were able to build up a team, build a product platform, go to customers, bring them, tell them why they should be using a platform like that. And this is all before even BookMyShow had entered event, by the way. Yeah. They were still on the movie side. And then that was a fantastic experience. 2010, 11. I have not told, we were called to IPL in 2011, by the way, by Kochi IPLs and Rajasthan IPLs. I've gone and met those officials in 2011. In September, right. I met them. Right. So all these things which was shaping up and was happening around was a excellent experience. We kind of grew it as a DIY. There were competitions coming in right in 2011. We had at least 7 to 8 other startups who were doing event. They came in, right, and then the competition started up, hitting it up. When I remember 2009, I think the first proto.in, where Vijayanand is, I think, initiated with a couple of people, was the first startup event that started in India. To way back in 2014 or 15, we would have hundreds of startups events in various cities in India, right? Yeah. So India itself went from one startup event in startup, proto.in, to hundreds of events happening now, right? So we got all that benefit of thinking about it early. We also didn't get the benefit of the market. Will the market grow, not grow? Are we as a company will be able to go beyond event to other formats such as movies and other experiences, right? In our case, in India's case, India is not like in US where you have thousands and thousands of indie event makers out there. We don't have. These are the ones which are already established event management company, and only a 10 to 15% new events are getting produced. I'm talking about 2015, 16 timeframe, right? So we also experimented, but the thought process was just one Kickstarter idea. I was looking for an idea, found it out, bootstrapped it, ran it for 2 to 3 years with my own money, and got some growth. And all, by the way, everything running from London on a Skype, on a
Right.
Twitter,
Fantastic.
and getting and people who came and worked with me from then, at least the initial team stayed with for 2.5 years or 3 years. So
Right.
that has been a fantastic experience to build a remote team, because hey, the founder was not with the team, and
Yeah.
Explara was getting built remotely.
Right. You were remote before the rest of us were remote.
We were remote, absolutely. No, I love remote even today. A lot of my teams, around January, February, when we were working together with the Explara, they
Yeah.
were all struggling to think remote,
Mm.
because now there is a bonding, and for the last several years we are working together. I'm
Right.
absolutely chilled. I'm absolutely remote today. And I can work with people over the phone without having a emotional hassles, or not able to understand
Mm.
why this job is not done, not getting agitated just because you cannot see the people and the job is not done, right? A lot of times
Right.
we get agitated because we don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
remote goes nicely with my personality. So I'm happy
Nice.
about it.
Yeah. You're also a very positive person, perhaps the most positive person that I've seen on Twitter. I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
I think.
I always smile when I see your tweet, right? Because always something positive. So there's
Thanks
that,
for that.
yeah, going for you. See, Explorer itself has evolved way beyond what it started as, right? I mean,
Sure.
today it's as I mentioned in my introduction, it's a monetization platform for communities. Can you talk about how the Explorer product itself evolved and what led to that kind of evolution? How do you
Yeah, yeah.
take in the customer insights or prospect insights and convert that into
Sure.
the product that is there today?
Sure. So I think, from an Explara point of view, we realized somewhere around 2017 that the India market is not going to grow, 100% year on year, or 50% year on year. US market is continues to grow, right? Even today, Eventbrite is $300 million IPO, because that market is growing and Western market is growing. India market has not grown on the event side, right? When I say our internal, events that get produced within the country, you have the Justin Biebers of the world coming in. Even that has not grown. If you look at the data from, because I worked with even Insider, they were my customer at some point of time, whether the Weekender, whether we did the David Guetta concert back in 2012, event market has not grown in a, let's say, 10x way. The industry itself, I'm not talking about the players, I'm talking about the industry. So somewhere around 2017, we realized that, look, event as only thing is not going to break out us, right? We would not able to go beyond what we are, and hence, and even for that matter, with all respect to Book My Show, they've been here for last 20 years, by the way.
Yeah.
Started the company in 99, so they have seen this journey too, right? So our mind map was, look at Explara as a platform to say, why are people coming to Explara? So when you look at some of the data points, very interesting data point, right? We have a customer called Pratik, who runs Nifty Millionaire. He's been using since 2011.
Mm.
Even today, right? While he can go to any other platform to host, workshops to teach people how to invest and where to invest. He runs that community. He does events here and there, but he uses Explara to collect fees and then host those workshops. That's one example. Similarly, several examples which kind of like we sat down in 2017 saying, okay, what is that people are using Explara for? People are using Explara for many other use cases, while we have been stuck thinking that it's only ticketing, but people have been doing many other pieces and parts that we are not exposing the platform in that direction, right? So that's where we started stepping back. We also took another data point to say, which are the successful event hosting organizations or people who host events. Then we realized, hey, you know what? Communities. Those who have either community or intend to grow community are the right set of people. Whether it is Next Big Want, who Ashish is creating a community, or whether it's a NASCOM, which is having a community already, or a TIE, which is already having a community. So we created saying, okay, how do we add value to them so that they can host events and build a community, or build a community and host events, both way, right? Because you cannot, for all practical purpose, for somebody to host a successful event, he or she must have a community. Right? That's one of the fundamental, wherever you do, however you do. right? Whether you go to tap into Facebook community, you tap into meetup community, you must have something, some audience, some captive audience, right? So that's why we created community membership management as one of the pillars. And then we opened up all other pillars to say, hey, you know what? People can come and host events if they have to host events. But hey, if they have to just collect fees or payments for a workshop or something that they are doing as part of their business, they can use Explara Beach. And if they are going to be hosting a NGO or social giving kind of things, right? They can use Explara Giving to do it. Those use cases were all built into the same Explara for years. We kind of like took them, unbundled them, and put it into 4 buckets and saying, hey, please come and monetize whatever you want to monetize as part of your interest, as part of your organization, and use the product that you would like to use the product, right? So it helped us to go up a bit and ensure that we are adding value to a customer or to an organization who, if they are even hosting an event, they might need a sponsorship link. They might send out a sponsorship link saying, hey, I'm so and so, I'm NASCOM. If you want to be part of this, please, here is our sponsor link. Please send money. They can use Explara Beach for that. That's the reasoning of unbundling it and putting 4 different things to help customer to use Explara in a full capacity. That's the thought process there.
Yeah. So it's also a very interesting phenomena that's happening, which is I call it the substract phenomena, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is these communities are getting built and people are creating platforms themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just as Substack is helping individual writers sort of create these platforms for themselves, not really rely on a particular platform or third-party platform to collect these email IDs and run their stuff, right? Yeah, I mean that's a very interesting thing that's happening. I mean, people are treating themselves as platforms themselves. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I think I was reading an article today. I think we are back to business in a box. What I read today, right? Business within a platform itself, right? And Shopify is a great example of that.
yeah, exactly.
Substack is going to be going in that direction pretty soon, right? Because you cannot do only one thing, and they will open up other way writers can monetize their skill, their intellectual, assets. So I think the world is going to be going through, and I think look, there is always a challenge for product. No product has ever stayed long without getting disrupted. Maybe it can be told about Ticketmaster, which has been there for 30-40 years. But I think a lot of industry gets disrupted. You go with the way customer is demanding the trend and expecting you to add value. It may not make sense when it's seen from an outside in point of view, but if your inside out view is driven by the customer's insight, driven by the customer need, and you are not breaking yourself apart, I think you should expand your platform in the way that's going to match the customer expectation. That's the thought process that I generally take in terms of product management and directions to go for.
Right. So there's also been a very big focus on profitability, right? I mean, from your side, which is, I think the last couple of years, anytime I've seen anything, on Twitter or whatever, you've always been talking about profitability. I want to understand what led you to that. I mean, why that focus, and how was that journey like to lead Explara into profitability?
Sure. So I think, 2 part of it. One is that there are, look, from an investor point of view, they put a lot of faith in investing companies where they think that's going to be a good outcome, right? Not just 1x, not just you return their money, but a good outcome, right? That's why the investors back you. But somewhere on the line, if you figure out that, hey, for some reason, for the next 2 years, 3 years, we are not going to grow, the market is yet opening up, or the values are going to be, there is going to be a good outcome, even if you are not growing, because the ecosystem might have an M&As and merger and acquisitions, and a larger outcome could come. You need to be in the game, right? So the thought process that we went through is, okay, can we grow faster? The only way to grow faster on the ticketing was to throw away a lot of coupons and do a lot of paid advertisements to bring audience and have no margins for you. Your gross margin is going to be as low as possible and lowest as possible, right? So that is one way, because there is no other way we could build that funnel. Then the second thought that came into mind is saying that, okay, look, if we are going to be around, the best way to be around is profitable, because then you are making sense. In fact, if you are not profitable, Explara would have been dead by March 15th. The COVID hit would have been done, right? But profitability means now the business is intact. All the investors who have put faith is intact. There are times going to come where Explara can bounce back, and run its own life and grow massively, because there is a huge volume of business that is always getting created every year and year, right? Now, that thought process came because we were dead many times and survived many times, right? We were dead for at least 2 to 3 times, and I'm thankful to a lot of investors who have put faith in giving us a lifeline back again. Hence, me and also the partner, we kind of thought, hey, how do we ensure whether we grow or whether we grow moderately? How do we ensure that the company is profitable? And what else we should be doing in the product? We expanded the product. What else we should be doing in the product that we can automate and not have a huge manpower required? Right, that's the second part. Third part is Explara is absolutely blessed by huge word of mouth, which gets us hundreds of customers every month without a proper sales team, right? In fact, the inbound is so high that we all our sales guys, they always struggle against the inbound, because no matter whatever they do, inbound gives us a one, right? So taking all these parameters, we decided that let's ensure that the profitability remains as the core focus of the company, to have a good outcome of it whenever the business need to have a transaction or go profitably grow year on year and have a good outcome due to the profitable business. Those are the sort of thought process which helped us to go in that direction.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so I was just reading that Postmates got acquired by Uber for about 2.6 billion, but they're already raised about $1 billion, right? So few of the investors, maybe a lot of the investors in the end, I mean, they didn't get a proper exit as such, right? And I think I've heard Jason Lemkin say this, that if you're signing up, I mean, if you're raising funds for a 15 million, then you're basically committing to 150 or 200 million exit at the very least, right? So
very true.
Yeah. The other aspect, Santosh, is the fact that you're a very public person with you're building your company and stuff, right? So you share everything. I mean, I've not seen a more transparent person in the Indian startup ecosystem, right? You share both your success and your loss, and can you just talk through how that has helped you?
Yeah, I think, see, as it's been told many times, running a company is one of the most lonely job, right? And if you have co-founders, great. But then everybody's, what do you call, the psychology level, and how much you can take it, how much you can give it, and where do you balance, right? So that every company has a different, sort of people, different DNAs, different style. For me, I think the most impactful has been what do I learn out of this, right? Because when we build companies out of the passion to come and create something, right? And as part of the creation process, you figure out that there are certain things that has not worked for you, right? So one is to quote it and not talk about it. Absolutely fine. I don't deny that that's not right way, wrong way. Not that everything that you do have to be told, but I believe that it's going to be a beautiful life if you tell people what something didn't work, right? I think and this is my philosophical thought about it. I think the world, has become better and better because in history somebody decided to write about it, right? May not be the winner, maybe the loser also, but people have written about it, right? I take that as my fundamental thought process to go and talk about it. And as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, as long as it is, it is said in the right spirit of, in that context, I feel good that, hey, you let the world know what it is. Anyway, nobody's stealing your idea, nobody's stealing what you do. People are learning from it. You build a better network. You build a small world of sharing and learning, right? Rather than being a very silo to say, hey, I will not tell anybody, I will not do anything. My personality is on the other side. I would like to serve. I love to share. I love to learn from the others, and I believe the world today, what it is, I think I would not be fit in the 1980s world, where you don't even have a platform to express yourself, right? I think having a platform to express yourself is the basic, fantastic, in fact, not basic, fantastic, opportunity for human being at the moment. And for creators, especially, it's beautiful. Look at even what Sahil is doing, Gumroad founder, right? What is he doing, right? He's selling it out. And nothing lost there. He's telling people who are about to build companies what has worked for him. What is that loss for him as such? Even Sampak does that with InstaMojo, right? He keeps telling about things that has worked, not worked. So I think I tend to believe that side of the block is a better life to build.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite articles in recent times was Sahil's article on, I think it was called My Failure to Build a $1 billion Startup or something of that sort. Yeah, it definitely helps because it shows founders that they're not alone, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And why should not we be letting know? And we know that, as you rightly said, 1% of the startups succeed, 5% of the startups succeed. Why should not the world know that certain experiments have not worked out?
Yeah.
Right? Why should not you be telling that there are certain fundamental approaches that you missed out? What's wrong in there? Because if nobody writes about it, then we are all going to be fooling ourselves to say everything works fine, while that's not the case.
Yeah.
So better express yourself, and as long as you're okay to relate to that. Again, I'm respecting everybody who doesn't want to share, because not everybody is able to relate that way, right? They would like to be quiet and do on their own. Absolutely fine. I'm not saying change the world, but if you are able to, if your personality is that and you believe in that kind of mindset, please go ahead, talk about it.
Yeah, and you can never underestimate the effect it's going to have on someone else, right? And even if it could improve someone's life
beautifully. I'll tell you a small anecdote. I'm like, it happened with a friend of mine. To a friend of mine, and he's an Indian but living in Singapore. I was meeting him. He has a business that is to do with e-commerce. Mainly in European e-commerce in Singapore, and he's expanding in Myanmar and all that. So he was saying how he's going and training schools and colleges in Myanmar to get people learn about e-commerce, right? Commerce as such, right? So then I kind of was chatting with him. I told him the story about how Johor does universities where they get people to train from poor, not having access to education, get them to their university, Johor University, and then train them, and then bring them to their company. And he just took that idea and applied, and he was like, and then he said, Santosh, you know what? While we were talking one day during the last meeting in Singapore, you talked about it. I just went on and implemented. Brilliant. This is I have now got at least hundreds to 200 people who are learning my technology, and they cannot study in proper schools and universities. And I would have them part of my, workforce, because they can help my customer onboarding. They can have a part-time gig. That's the beauty of sharing. You never know who has got the benefit out of it.
Yeah. So the other aspect to you right now is the fact that you work for Thrively. So what was this transition like? I mean, so you decided to move on from Explara. I'm sure. I mean, it must not have been an easy decision to move on. Sure. What prompted that decision, and how are you finding this new gig with Thrively?
Yeah, so I think my decision too is that I have run long. I have gone through all possible grindings as far as possible. I can imagine. I think and to be honest, though I have been grinding equally. Ashok has been grinding. We both have been running the business. He's the inside face of the company who runs. Who goes through much more harder task of ensuring cash flows and financials. All that decision comes to him, and you can imagine how much of stressful that is when you deal with numbers, right? Dealing with people is okay. Dealing with numbers are much harder because hey, you know what? This month we might struggle to give a full salary, or this month we might have to do something for it, right? So I equally respect what he has gone through. But having said that, then we realize, hey, look, with the COVID, the industry is not going to come back for at least 18 months or so. Event industry is going to go down. Beyond vaccines, people will slowly bounce back. I have got the company to wherever I can, and and I don't want to do any more because there is nothing more I can add value. It's a good sustainable phase. The company is profitable year on year for last 2 years. You can continue to run. You have run it equally with the same mindset and understanding the thing. I, as a personality, I need intense roles. I need roles where I can come every day and look at numbers and try to grow. I think COVID didn't help in that way, right? I was frozen to say you can't do anything. You have to just sit down, right? Because no customer is going to come. Nothing is going to talk. Luckily, you have a different business which is going to give you all the cash flow required to run a small operations. But hey, nothing, no product experimentation, no growth experimentation, and no outreach experimentation. However you want to phrase those experimentation, you can do, right? I think that, and I have run the company and myself in a very low footprint, financial footprint, right? So I think my investors were very, very helpful, open to the fact that two founders are not required to run it. Also can run it. Santosh can continue to be a board member, and at some point of time when industry bounce backs, we can always get more qualified people to run the company if it is, find exit options, run the company profitably. Many options would come, right? And the company is been run by the set of people who are currently there for at least decades, so they can run it without my intervention as such, right? So that made me to switch. Second, Tribely, comes from, again, in fact, Tribely is run by a friend of mine. 20 years back, we used to work together, run by Grace in US. And again, he had bootstrapped for many years, but doing a couple of million ARR already, impacting the school education in US big time. Very different philosophy and different than the usual K-12 learning, skill-based learning, passion-based learning, helping the kids to collaborate and use K-12, but more around skill rather than learning from the books. That attracted my mindset, and because I had already run the company, it's easy to jump in. I'm helping the founder. In fact, clearing it up, right? What can I clear in your sales process? What can I clear in your marketing? What else that you want to share, and at least share and have another founder hear you out, and then come up with ideas or come up with execution mindset, right? So I think running a company for many years or even a couple of other number of years is irrelevant, but running a company gives you a fantastic advantage to treat a founder in terms like a founder, right? You relate to it, you relate to the problem, and you go address the problem in a right sort of way because you understand, in a cohesive way, and you are able to talk about it because you are not being hired as a functional guy. You are hired as a founder. It's a very different thing, right? You are able to bring the cohesive nature of your expertise and make an impact about it. So that's what I am doing at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic point. And I made the transition myself when I joined Waymo about 3 years back. And it's just, with founders, even if you were to make them employees, I mean, it's just give us a problem to solve and we're happy to solve that, right? And so often it is the fact that you're able to relate to another founder that's invaluable to startups, actually. Really, the fact that you can relate to the founder at a founder level.
Huge. Like it makes life a lot more easy, right? That's why we all say that, hey, when you hire a team, It makes, and not just founders, but a founder mentality. In fact, I wrote a blog post long back, which now I've kind of taken off from my santoshpanda.com. I wrote a blog post, I think came from Naval's A Bit of Thought, called Founder Mentality. Then I went on writing about it. I think it has been written by many people too, founder mentality. I think even people who you hire, they don't need to be an entrepreneur or a founder, but as long as they have that mentality, right? I'm a founder, I need to operate at that level of
Yeah.
impact. Then running businesses, building team becomes beautiful. You enjoy that journey wherever you are.
Yeah. No, the fact that you can own outcomes, the fact that you are extremely cross-functional, the fact that you can lead people, and all of those things, right? Which is very, very core founder attributes, translate beautifully to any business, actually. Yeah. Yeah. So, Santosh, let's switch the pace a little bit. We'll do what we call a rapid fire round. So, short
Steady
and
round.
nothing scandalous, don't worry about it.
Okay.
So, short and interesting answers to the following questions.
Sure.
I think I asked you this before, but one thing founders neglect.
Founders neglect cash flow.
Okay. One startup thing that's just really overhyped.
Any startup that is overhyped, or one startup thing that is
One startup thing that's overhyped.
Growth hacks.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, the best thing about starting up.
Working with people.
And most frustrating thing about starting up.
Nobody to give an excuse.
Yeah, that sucks. Sometimes you just wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at least in the home you can say, mom didn't wake me up, or dad didn't tell me this. In this, there is nothing there. You have to own it up.
Yeah. So I keep telling telling the folks on my team, right? I mean, you should just thank your stars that you have a manager right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Yeah. So your morning routine.
Yeah, so I kind of do these days in the COVID era. I do a 20 minutes warm up, and in the home itself, I wake up at 6:45, and I go and do. I read a little bit in the morning, whatever it is. Either these days I'm packing up my Notion, so I'm getting into digital reading. Before that, I've been reading on books. I pick up a combination of that. Then go, freshen up myself, do a bit of warm up. 9 o'clock, I get my daily schedule reviewed again so that I'm able to see what it is in the calendar, refresh it. I use a tool called Sunsama, which is helping me to daily productivity. So I keep my calendar on many things, but I bring it out what things to work and put it into a timeline to say, okay, there is what I'm doing on the calendar. I can change, but I do that. And then get into Scrum, get into part of my planning, start executing it, and in between I document things. I'm a big time documenting guy. I document like anything. Hell. And then for the last couple of weeks, I'm also trying to switch an alternate day yoga night around in the evening around 6 o'clock. I've been on and off, but I'm trying to rephrase it. This is during this time. Previously, I would do a morning jogging at least 40 minutes near home, and do an alternate yoga, and jogging in the morning. And sometimes I walk all the way to office, 4-5 kilometers, for a couple of days in between in weeks. So that's how I am. Now the diet has gone into fully non-protein carbohydrate, although I used to be a protein freak. For at least 2 years, I reduced at least 10 or 12 kilos by getting into keto and all that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you're a super organized person, I can tell.
Bit of, and I have my own procrastination. None of us can be that super.
All of us, we're all human, right? So
obviously,
there has to be something.
Yeah.
So the best quarantine hack that you've discovered, over the last 3 months.
Best quarantine hack that has to do with anything, or for work, or food,
personal, anything.
Food or what?
food is also fine. No
Yeah,
problem.
no, I think one thing that I've enjoyed a lot in quarantine, I was about to tweet, I missed it out. So let me tell you here. So I'm now enjoying the my own masala tea in home, right? I used
Okay.
to have a big time struggle. So I do ginger tea a lot, masala tea a lot. Outside, I used to struggle because, the combination doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
Sometimes no sweet, sometimes more ginger and all that. I have got that a big. I'm a big, I don't know if you know milk, malai that comes out of milk. I'm a big
Right.
malai fan. So now that
Okay.
I'm in home, I'm really enjoying my malais. That I never used to get it because, once you go office, you never get that. Right.
Right.
So I think the quarantine has really helped me to go back to my milk and love my
Yeah.
malai, which I used to get in childhood from my mom. Anyway.
Right. Right. Yeah. The simple pleasures of life, right? Just the right amount of the combination in that masala chai
Yeah.
can just like
Yeah,
lift
and play
your
with my
whole self.
kids, right? Play the carom. So I'm not an indoor game fan. I'm playing indoor with my game with my kids. So I think that has also brought me back to a bit of indoor games, play
Nice.
with the kids.
Nice. What books are you reading? What books would you recommend to people?
So I read quite a bit of books. I was reading Harsha Bogle's book on team building and things like that. The Winning Way 2.0. I have literally read it at one x speed. In fact, today an hour tweeted about it 1x speed. Right, I've read it about 0.7x speed. Just wanted to go deep dive because sports. I believe sports has huge
Yeah.
things to learn
Yeah.
from sports for
It's the
anything,
best
any
metaphor for
organization.
life.
Yeah. It's a fantastic. For me, team building sports is the biggest team building exercise ever. I
Yeah.
was reading that. I have been reading a lot of assorted articles or materials on the web, more about what are the marketing frameworks that, because that comes to my job that I'm doing in Tribally, so I'm reading about them. I'm reading about education. What are the new things happening in education? You take that and dozens of different books. I'm already always running parallel books, so I don't finish up one book. I go deal about it a little bit, keep it there, and then go back to another book, read about that. I think I've been tweeting about a lot of books that I read. I'll put it up there, but no such book that comes out of my mind saying, "Hey, you should read it." One of the book that if you're running a startup, maybe you should read April Dunford's book.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that's a fantastic book that I've enjoyed in the last couple of months. There is another book from somebody called Ajin, which is called Velocity. Is a book that I enjoy a lot. I've read it at least one or two times. There is a great old book called Inside Advantage. Every founder and team should read about it. It's not on publications. You might not find the physical book. I had got it from a long back, but I started reading it. It
Hmm.
talks about how we overlook the advantage that every company has. As we grow, we continue to miss our inside advantage as we build on new advantages or new product and framework. So it gives you a
Right.
renewed thought. So these are the sort of couple of books that I'm through this at the moment in the last couple of months.
Yeah, so I picked up Obviously Awesome by April Dunford, possibly just about a month back, actually, and
Sure,
yet
sure,
to
sure.
read it. It's supposed to be like really good from a
It's
positioning
a great
perspective.
book. It's a
Yeah,
great book.
yeah. Do you listen to a lot of podcasts?
I do, but last couple of months, I think in the last 2 months, I have been reading a lot. So before COVID, while driving or in the one I used to, two things that have stopped. I don't know why.
Right.
Music and podcast has stopped a bit for me,
Yeah.
even in home. I'm more into, reading quick short articles. I'm now collecting a lot of this long thread form Twitters.
Okay.
I've become a fan of that and picking up those and reading about it
Yeah.
and organizing myself in various life and work as a philosophy and other founders talk. Those are the sort of articles that I'm reading about it.
Yeah.
Podcast has been a little slow in the last couple of months.
Twitter threads are amazing, actually. I mean, there's
It has
some
been
fantastic
amazing.
information.
Yeah, it has been
Yeah.
amazing find and huge value because you can take those chunks of things and start applying it or start reflecting it. I think
Yeah.
that's why it is helping us to,
Yeah.
because you don't feel that it's a volume, you feel like it's a chunk, and
Mm.
our attention span is going. for those, and you're able to
Yeah.
deliver, kind of like you kind of like get the value out of it.
Yeah. So, Santosh, we're almost at the end of the podcast, and it's customary for us to ask guests on the show one thing or like a few things that they're optimistic for in this whole post-COVID world that we will be living in.
Yeah, I think, the post-COVID world, I'm definitely optimist, but I think, I need to also refine a bit of optimism with what happened with COVID. I think the world should refine a bit of optimism and not take things for granted, such as I think we should stop telling our kids, hey, don't become doctors, too many doctors and all that. I think we should give more focus towards healthcare, mental health, fantastic family relationship things should come back in organizations, corporates, because demand rush hasn't helped the world. It's not going to help the world, right? Because maybe in the next 5 years we might see another virus coming in. Are we prepared for it? I think I would like to take some value of learning what has happened in the last 3 months for the world to do it. But having said that, I'm optimistic that we would overcome this kind of sort of setbacks or overall as an evolution. I think the world beyond COVID would find that, hey, you know what? Yes, we all went through a huge stress, anxiety of this thing, but I think that also opened up the fact that we could connect to a lot more people that we would not have connected.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's something that I take positive out of it.
Yeah.
That these 3 months, I think I've reached out, or my friends have reached out, 20 years classmates have reached out, childhood friends have reached out. I think the world opened up. I hope we will continue to use technology to have the ongoing relationship and continue to make the world a better place. In that. So those are the sort of my thought processes.
Yeah, the fact that we've been connected for many different years, and we finally spent about an hour talking about everything that both of us are passionate about. Thank you so much, Santosh. Really nice talking to you. Continue helping founders as much as possible. And thank you everyone for tuning in. The podcast will be available on Anchor.fm, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, YouTube, and a bunch of other platforms. If you liked this episode, then don't forget to share and subscribe. Until next time, stay safe and take care.